Very good morning to all the students who are attending this session, which is more focused and is on towards the engineering programs, the BTech, especially the BTech and the integrated MTech programs that are offered at Shastra main campus as well as in the SRC campus. I am Dr. S. Swaminathan, Dean Planning and Development, as well as a faculty from the School of Chemical and Biotechnology. And I am also joined by Professor S. Pugarendi, who is the Dean, School of Mechanical Engineering.
Good morning, student friends. I'm very glad to join Dr. Swaminathan, Dean Planning and Development of Shastra Deemed University. And on behalf of the entire engineering fraternity, I welcome you all to this orientation session to the engineering program.
Thank you, sir. So what we will be doing in this session is we will take you through the different aspects of the engineering curriculum, the way the engineering curriculum has been structured, as well as the evaluation patterns that is being followed for the various engineering programs. And for that, we will go through a presentation, and finally, we will take up some questions that the students might have. So Shastra's vision has been to become a world-class university that not only engages in teaching, but also engages in research and technology development so that we are able to offer quality education to students and the other learners. We've always believed that the strong foundation for such a vision lies on 4 pillars. The first pillar being the infrastructure, which you will, sort of appreciate during the course of my presentation, and fully you will be able to appreciate when you are able to physically visit the campus. And of course, the faculty with whom you would be engaging in the next 4 years if you are in the BTech program, or the next 5 years if you are in the MTech integrated program, and the curriculum that is being offered, and of course the students here, all you people. And we believe that these 4 pillars, are our strengths in terms of being able to engage with in research and development cutting edge areas, and at the same time would be able to provide quality education. So in 2015, when we finished 30 years of our existence, we asked a question to ourselves: what is that Shastra would like to do in the next 10 years so that we are able to create or be known to the rest of the world? And that's when we put in together a vision document, Vision 2025, which talks in detail about 4 enablers and 12 flagship programs so that we would be able to carve a niche for ourselves in various areas such as research, collaboration, student engagement, social interface, global recognition and positioning, finance, teaching and learning, and of course, expanding education. And the last 5 years, this has been our guiding model. This has been our Bible to follow, where we have been able to achieve some of these targets that we have set for ourselves the next 10 years. Shastra has also been re-accredited by the National Accreditation and Assessment Council with a CGPA of 3.54 on a 4-point scale, and because of which the UGC has recognized Shastra as a Category 1 institute in the year 2018 based on the categorization of institutions. It was in fact a very glad moment for all of us, a very momentous moment for all of us, because at the time when this initiative was started by the University Grants Commission, Government of India, there were only 33 institutions in the entire country which were recognized as category 1, and we were one among those 33 institutions in the country. And that was a very proud moment for all of us. All of you would have been very closely following the NIRF, or the National Institutional Ranking Framework of the Indian government, which has started to rank institutions across the country on various disciplines. And Shastra has been participating in these ranking initiatives of the government of India. And the latest 2020 ranking, we've been ranked 37 out of 1,071 engineering institutions in the country. And as a university, we have been ranked 25 from about 1,100 institutions, 1,100 universities in the country. So this is again an important milestone or a recognition to Shastra based on the students' performances, the faculty's publication, the research grants that we have been able to get, the technologies that we have been able to develop, and so on. We have also been featured in the global rankings as well. We've been ranked in the 2020 Times Higher Education World University Ranking, QS BRICS, QS Asia, Times Higher Education Asia, and so on. Last year, Shastra's engineering programs, the programs that have been listed here, basically 9 different engineering programs, have been accredited by the Institution of Engineering and Technology, which is a professional body in the United Kingdom. And this is the first time in the history of IET that 12 programs, that is 9 from the main campus and 3 from the SRC campus, total 12 programs have been accredited for the maximum duration of 9 years at one go. And this is, in fact, again, a very proud moment to get an international recognition for the kind of curriculum that is being delivered to the students, the design of the curriculum, the delivery of the curriculum, the faculty strengths that we have, kind of projects that we do, the engagements that the students are able to foster with industries, the industry relationship between the industry and Shastra as well. So these are the different 9 programs that have also been accredited by the Institution of Engineering and Technology UK. So to summarize all our engineering programs, I will use this table. And the way Shastra has been structured is that we have 9 different schools, of which 5 are the engineering schools. We have the School of Chemical and Biotechnology, which offers undergraduate programs in bioengineering, bioinformatics, biotechnology, and chemical engineering, and 2 5-year integrated programs in biotechnology and medical nanotechnology. Then we have the School of Civil Engineering, which offers the civil engineering, the degree in civil engineering, and the School of Computing, which is one of the largest school in the campus, offers programs in the computer science and engineering, and 3 specialization programs in computer science and engineering, which is on artificial intelligence and data science, Internet of Things and automation, cybersecurity and blockchain technology. We also run a program in collaboration with Tata Communication Systems on computer science and business systems. And there are 2 other undergraduate programs, which are the Information and Communication Technology and Information Technology. The School of Electrical Engineering essentially comprises of the departments of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Electronics and Electrical and Electronics Engineering, and Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering. And these departments, collectively, they offer undergraduate engineering programs in Electronics and Communication with a specialization in cyber physical systems, Electrical and Electronics Engineering, again, Electrical and Electronics Engineering with a specialization in smart grid and electric vehicles, and again, finally, a program on Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering. The School of Mechanical Engineering, which is one of the oldest school in the campus, offers programs on aerospace engineering, mechanical engineering, as well as a specialization in digital manufacturing and mechatronics. So let me pause for a minute in this slide and also explain to you some of the nuances, the way these programs have been structured as well. So if you look at the integrated program and the regular 4-year program, the design is in such a way that the integrated program students, they sit in the class along with the undergraduate students of the corresponding programs. For example, integrated program in biotechnology will be sitting along with students of BTech biotechnology, and similarly, integrated program of medical nanotechnology will be sitting along with students of bioengineering up to the first 7 semesters. So which means the curriculum that is being taught for the integrated programs is common, or all the foundational courses and the core courses that are required to be able to move on to the next level of studying the MTech programs. So as I said, these first 7 semesters will be common, and the undergraduate students will move on to do their open electives and their final year project in the undergrad in their 8th semester, whereas the integrated students would next do their PG courses in the 8th, 9th, and 10th semester, and they will also have a final project in the 10th semester. The second point that I would also like to highlight in this slide is that the computer science and engineering programs, as well as the electronics and communication engineering programs that are offered in the main campus and SRC campus, are one and the same, which means the curriculum that is taught, the courses that is taught, or the subjects that is taught in these programs are the same. It is only that you are physically sitting in a different location, and the courses are handled by a different faculty. The continuous internal assessment tests, the question papers for these continuous assessment internal tests for your in-semester examination will all be the same, which means that there is no difference in terms of the content delivered content or the content delivery or the evaluation pattern for the students who study the computer science program or the communication engineering program in the main campus or SRC campus. Since everything is the same, you have the equal opportunity of sitting in placements as well, provided that you qualify the minimum eligibility that is prescribed by the recruiters. Apart from this, the third point and the important thing that is there in this slide are these specialization programs. So recently, AICTE has introduced degree programs in emerging areas. And we are one of the few institutions in the country to offer such specializations which are emerging in nature to give benefit to our students, so that while you are ready to graduate in 2024, you would also be ready to be absorbed in the industry. And that is the reason we have carefully chosen these specialization programs in artificial intelligence and data science, IoT and automation, cybersecurity, blockchain, cyber physical systems, smart grid and electric vehicles, as well as digital manufacturing. And in fact, all these areas are listed as one of those exponential technologies that is going to be seen by, or that is going to be taken into in the industries in the next decade. Moving on to the curricular design. As students who undergo this curriculum, you should also be aware as to how the curriculum is being designed, is developed. So we have a basic framework of curriculum that is being offered, which we in fact benchmark with some of the best in the world. We compare the curriculum that is offered in a variety of these programs in the engineering schools, in the Ivy League schools in the US, to the Oxford, Cambridge, and so on. And then we come up with the curriculum, which then goes into the boards of studies. So board of studies is a committee of people who are from the industry, who are from other academic institutions such as the IITs or ICERs or even IISc, where they formulate a structure that is required for each of these degree programs. And this then goes into the academic council, where again we have external experts from IITs, industries, IISc, and so on, who deliberate on these content of these programs. And finally, that comes out as the curriculum which is taught to the students. So as students go through this curriculum, we continuously get feedback from them as to their expectations in the curriculum, and whether those expectations were met while they underwent these courses. And we also collect feedback from our graduates through our curriculum development workshops that happens every year. And this feedback we then consolidate it along with the feedback that we get from our recruiters who come to recruit our students in the campus placement, and also do again a check on what the industry required expectations and the societal needs are. And all these are again collectively fed back into the boards of studies and academic council, which again deliberate and see whether certain modifications, certain changes that is required, structural changes that are required in the curriculum are being effectively done, and which again comes back and is being delivered to students. So this in a nutshell, we have a very continuously we collect feedback from the students, from all the stakeholders, so that we provide a curriculum that makes students not only industry ready, but as they move forward to their postgraduate or for their doctoral degree programs, they have a very strong foundation, and that we ensure that. So during your years of stay at Shastra, you would continuously be hearing a word credit, which is very different from what you would have heard till your high school. So we will explain what a credit means as well. So to be able to be eligible to receive a BTech degree at Shastra, you should have completed 180 credits, and for an integrated MTech program, it is 225 credits. So once you get registered into the program, and by the first week of October, you are into our Google Classrooms, every faculty will share with you a curriculum or the syllabus for that course, which will clearly mention the learning outcomes. So learning outcomes provides you an information which tells you what you would be able to achieve while you do this course, right? And as you progress at Shastra, when you move on from your first semester, which is right now an online semester, through the second and subsequently to higher semesters, you would be able to participate and choose your own course as well as faculty of your choice based on our CBCS system, which is called the choice-based credit system as well. So once our classes start physically, you will also realize that all our UG classes will have a strength of about 60, and PG classes will have a strength of about 30. And the 180 or 225 credits, as the case may be, would be divided into core courses, department electives, as well as open electives. So core courses are those mandatory courses that you will have to do, which means that for you to qualify as a mechanical engineer or an electronics engineer, you will have to complete these core courses, which are fundamental to that degree program. And once you complete this fundamental degree program, many students will have an inclination or an interest to specialize or to learn more about certain areas, and they could do those advanced studies by in fact opting to the department electives. And finally, your open electives, which are offered in the 8th semester or even before that, if you're eligible for the ACRS scheme, which I will explain what it means, are open-ended in nature, in the sense that you do not require any prerequisites to take these courses. So some of the courses that we offer during your stay, during the 4-year period, are pure theory courses. Some of them are semi-theory, semi-practical. For example, if you take a programming course in C or a Java programming or Python programming, you will not be studying theory separately, and you will not be studying the lab or a practical course separately. It is a course that has been coined as semi-theory and semi-practical, where there will be a blend of both theory and practical that will go hand in hand. And this we have seen in the last couple of years, essentially increases the learning of the students. In the course content, we have also included design projects, mini projects, as well as final year projects. So these three project types are mandatory for you to be eligible to receive the BTech degree. And all these things have enabled an experiential learning pedagogy that we have been able to offer to the students, and which has also been well received by the students. And this has been shown or reflected in the way that students are able to get jobs in some of the top-notch companies as well. Even some of our assessment tools are different. It could be based on dramas, role plays, open book exams, group discussions, etc. So we employ different types of these pedagogical tools to understand and to evaluate you as to how much you have understood the subject and how well you are able to apply the concepts that you have learned in these subjects. And of course, your technical strengths could further be strengthened by your own participation in the student associations as well as in the technical club activities. So we offer a lot of flexibility to the students. As I mentioned earlier, the first is the choice-based credit system. So from the next semester onwards, once our physical classes start, you will be able to choose a section in which you would like to study, right? So it could be you would be studying mathematics, physics, or whatever subject you want. You could choose the subject as well as the faculty under whom you would like to study. Another important flexibility that you may also want to opt is that there will be an option to slide your branch after the first semester or your first year, which will be purely based on your first year SGPA or the first year CGPA. I mean, the first semester SGPA or your first year CGPA. And this is again subject to vacancies that are available into the branches that you want to slide into. You would also have flexibility in terms of learning English or any foreign language as part of your curriculum, as part of your open elective, or also do these as additional courses through some professional language centers such as the Goethe Institute, which offers German language in 2 levels to our students beyond the regular working hours. And if you are a fast learner, you would be able to complete all your courses within your 7 semesters. So the way that we have designed the entire curricular structure is that you will have 3 open electives in the last semester along with your final year project. But if you are a fast learner, by fast learner, the definition is that if your cumulative grade point average at the end of your 4th semester or your second year is greater than 7.5, then you are eligible to register for the accelerated course registration system, by which you will be able to take 1 open elective every semester so that you will complete all your coursework by the time you finish your 7th semester, and you will have the entire 8th semester available for you to do a full-time project either on campus or with our partner institutions or in an industry. And that brings us to the second point, the semester abroad program, which is also very important because every year we send about 100 students through the semester abroad program to various partner institutions starting from Harvard, MIT, University of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Tokyo University, NUS Singapore, Deakin, across the globe. We send about 60 to 70 partner institutions where the students spend 6 months of their time working on a project along with a supervisor there. And most often it turns out that the supervisor there, the host institution, is excited to have the student back as a graduate student. And because of which, most of the students who go under this program, they automatically get admission into the master's or the PhD program in their departments as well. The third one is on research credits or online courses. So this way, we would be able to provide students can register for research credits during their 6th or 7th semester, again, based on their performances, but if they clear also an interview with us, so that they would be able to pursue research in any of our labs with a mentor, from Shastra, in lieu of their department elective. So what this again enables you is that you could drop a taught course, for example, one of the department electives in biotechnology, and decide to do a research credits with one of the biotechnology, or with any of our faculty in the campus for that semester, for which you would be evaluated. Okay. Also, there are students who would say, these are some of the emerging courses which I would like to take, but that's not being offered at this time as a department elective. We encourage students to also register for online courses through various MOOC platforms. And if you are taking the course in the online platform and submitting a course of an equivalent weightage, a 3-credit course meaning 45 hours, or a 4-credit course meaning 60 hours, we would be able to exempt you again from a department elective in lieu of an online course that you have done. And of course, students who are into the BTech program can register for honors degree, by which you will have to do 20 additional credits, which is like 5 additional courses on your own, so that at the end of the 4-year program, if you have a CGPA of 7.5 and above, you would be eligible to get an honors degree as well. Of course, for people who are slow learners who require extra attention, our faculty members will mentor them. They will provide them with extra assignments. We will offer them counseling, additional teaching. There is also supplementary exam that would be conducted twice a year. We will also conduct summer and winter schools, so that we are able to help them clear any arrears or backlogs that they may keep. We also have a unique program which is called the Shastra Anukula Shikshan, by which we take some of the bright students and ask them to teach their peers, or students who require some extra help. And these students who teach are also being paid a stipend for their services of teaching their peers as well. So there are various avenues, various opportunities by which you could engage with Shastra during your 4-year or your 5-year period, so that you are able to benefit the maximum. Our academic calendar is well structured. If you had visited our Shastra website previously, you would see that our academic calendar is also available online, which gives you details of all the working days, holidays, when the assessment tests are, the examination fee remittance, when our technical, cultural, sporting events are scheduled to take place, and you get all details that are required during an academic year, and we strictly adhere to this. Typically, every semester is about 18 weeks long, and we will have about 75 working days in each semester. So, and there is a change in the academic calendar for this semester alone, which I will highlight in the subsequent slides. Typically, this is how a first-year curriculum would look like, and this is what you would also see. Most of your course structure will have this abbreviation L, T, P, and C. So L stands for lecture, T is the tutorial, P is the practical or the lab component, and C is the credit. So what this table tells you is that it provides you information of the number of lectures. For example, if you take mathematics 1, so you would have 3 lectures in a week, 1 tutorial in a week, so that the faculty will engage with you for 4 hours in a week. And when a faculty engages with you for 4 hours, it is a 4-credit course. So this is the definition of the credit as well. For example, if you take a laboratory course, which as I mentioned to you earlier, a semi-theory, semi-lab course, which is, for example, we will consider problem solving and programming in C, which is again, you will have 3 hours of lecture, 2 hours of practicals, and every 2 hours of practical is counted as 1 credit. So this is the definition of the AICTE, and this is what is also being followed globally. So you will get 3 hours of lecture, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 3 plus 1, again, 4 credits or 4 hours of engagement, 4 credits for this course, but you will engage for 5 hours. Okay. So this is how all your course structure in every semester will look like. You will have the names of those courses followed by the LTPC structure. Okay. So in the first year alone, we will be dividing you into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. And this has got nothing to do with your academics or anything to do with your ranks and things like that. It is just that we randomly divide you into 2 groups. And first group, one of the groups, or Group A, would do technical communication, physics, electrical, civil, mechanics, and graphics, or mechanics and introduction to engineering design. And in the second, and Group B would do biology for engineers, chemistry, electronics, mechanical, and then graphics, right? So, however, Mathematics 1, problem solving in C are compulsory courses that both the groups will be doing at the same time in the first semester. In the second semester, you would swap, meaning that students who did technical communication in the first semester would do biology for engineers in the second semester. And of course, Mathematics 1, you will move to Mathematics 2. And all of you would have completed C, you will do C++. Students who did physics will do chemistry. Students who did chemistry in the first semester will do physics in the second semester. Similarly, for the electrical, civil, and mechanics, and students who did mechanics and engineering design would do graphics in the second semester. So depending on the group that you are, you would either complete 25 credits in the first group or in the first semester and 23 credits in the second semester, and by which all the students by the end of the first year would have completed 48 credits. Okay. This is what would happen in a typical normal semester. And usually our evaluation process is based on a grade point average, which is calculated based on the scores that you get both in your internal assessment as well as in semester examination. In a normal semester, during the semester, we will be conducting 3 continuous internal assessment tests. Okay. Out of the 3 continuous internal assessment tests, we will take the best 2 that you have performed for 40% of your marks. And the remaining 10% will be based on your assignments, seminars, and quizzes. So by which your internal assessment mark is for 50. And if it is a practical course, your pre-lab work, experimental work, record, viva, everything will constitute for 50 marks. And towards the end, once you write your in-semester examination for 100 marks, which will be a 3-hour examination, that will be converted to 50. And the marks that you scored out of 50 will be added to your internal scores to get your final score for that course at the end of the semester. So this being online semester, we understand and we also fully appreciate that there are a lot of concerns from the parents, from the students themselves. So we have made slight adjustments to the courses that are being offered. The only change that we would be doing is that, the engineering graphics, because that requires, AutoCAD software, which will not be available with most of the students. So all the students will be doing the engineering graphics and the introduction to engineering design in the second semester. The graphics there will be no split in the groups that will do graphics or engineering design. the entire batch of first year will be doing the engineering graphics course only in their second semester. Right? And the lab courses, especially the physics, electrical electronics, chemistry, civil mechanical, we will show you some of the virtual experiments wherever possible so that you are able to understand the concepts. And once you return to the campus, we will have these laboratories that will be conducted in the second semester along with the other courses. Of course, for problem solving and programming in C, there are open compilers that are available, open source compilers that are available, which your faculty who is going to be teaching you programming in C will tell you to download and have it onto your laptop. And any assignment, all these laboratory exercises, you would be able to do it and compile it. And if you have an issue in compiling it, kindly talk to the faculty. They will give you also access, remote access to some of the compilers that is available in campus, so that you would be able to submit your laboratory exercises as and when you do it, rather than postponing it to the next semester. Okay. So in a nutshell, at the end of first year, there will be, you will be completing the same number of credits, 48 credits in the end of the first year, but there will be a redistribution in the number of credits that you actually do in the first semester and second semester. And similarly, there is a change in the evaluation process. I told you earlier that in a regular semester, 50% of your scores would be taken from the continuous internal assessment and 50% towards your end semester evaluation. So this being an online semester, the internal component is only for 25%, and the end semester component is going to be for 75%. And these internal tests for 25% will be conducted during your 75 days of the online sessions that you have with faculty, through quizzes, through assignments, through surprise tests that the faculty may conduct. So we will earnestly request you to attend all the courses, all the the scheduled classes, unless you have an exigency, or you have an emergency, or there is you have some network issues. So other than these, we will urge you to attend all the courses in the online, and of course you will have access to these videos that we will be putting up after the classes are over, for you to come back and reflect on these things. So there are a lot of positives, as Dr. Naren explained in the yesterday's session on online learning, that there are a lot of positives. You have a lot of time to go back to these lectures, listen to them again and again. If you are not able to understand, you have an opportunity to again chat, to engage with your faculty member teaching with the course, and so that we will also be able to enhance the overall learning. So at the end of the course, all your numbers or marks that you have scored gets converted into a letter grade. For example, if a student scores 88 in mathematics, he would get an A+ grade, and that will be converted to a point value of 9. And if somebody gets 69, they will get a B grade, which will be compared to a point value of 7. And all these point values get converted into a semester grade point average, and this is how we calculate it. So if C is the credit that is being assigned to the course, and P is the point value that a student takes, as I told you earlier in the previous slide, in the mathematics course, which is a 4-credit course, you get 9 points. So it is basically 4 into 9, 36. And this is done for all the 6 or 7, 8 or 5 courses that you do in the semester. And that is divided by the individual credits of each of those courses, the total number of credits that you have registered for the semester, which is typically between 24 to 28, right? So that will give you the semester point average, or the SGPA. And cumulative grade point average is again calculated based on the total number of credits that you took in the first semester, multiply with the first semester SGPA, total number of credits you took to the second semester, multiplied by the semester grade point average in the second semester, and so on. So by the time you finish your undergraduate BTech degree, you will have 8 SGPAs, which will be multiplied by the corresponding number of credits you took, divided by 180. Okay, so that will give your cumulative grade point average. I will just caution you that when recruiters start sending their eligibility criteria, and you need to have, in some cases 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, so on and so forth. And of course, your classification of results is also going to be based on your CGPA. So you will be eligible to get a BTech in honors degree or BTech honors degree if you have a CGPA of greater than or equal to 7.5 and you complete 5 additional courses. Right? You will be eligible to get a first class with distinction if your CGPA is greater than or equal to 7.5 and you complete all the courses in the first attempt itself. You will get a first class degree if your CGPA is between 6 and 7.5 and you finish within the 4 years period or 5 years in the integrated program, you will get a first class degree. Right? So this 7.5 magic number is very, very important for you to be eligible for a lot of things, to be eligible for a first class with distinction, to be eligible to enroll for honors, to be eligible for enroll for ACRS, and so on. So since most of you would have not have visited our campus earlier, so this is the layout of the entire campus, where we have all our boys hostel blocks on this side, academic blocks on this side, this is the School of Civil Engineering, our central library, the School of Computing is here. This is Vidyut Vihar is the School of Electrical Engineering. Vishwakarma Jyot is the School of Mechanical Engineering, and Jiva Chaitanya is the School of Chemical and Biotechnology. Right? And the girls' hostels are on the western side of the campus, and the boys' hostels are on the eastern side. And this is the separate first-year hostel that you would be, for hostelers who would like to stay on campus, would be provided accommodation once we reopen the campus. Okay? So this is the layout of the campus, and we also have a modern production facility which is right across the road, which is part of the School of Mechanical Engineering. And these are the different structures I showed you. This is the School of Chemical and Biotechnology called Jiva Chaitanya, or JVC in short. This is Nirman Vihar, which is a School of Civil Engineering, and these two are part of School of Computing, and this building is where we have the supercomputing facility, high performance clusters, and so on. And this is the Vidyut Vihar, or the School of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, and this is Vishwakarma Jyot, or VKJ as it is fondly called, which is part of the School of Mechanical Engineering, and also all the first year classes are in the second floor of this building as well. And while you come to our campus early next year, the new academic cluster, which is the integrated academic blocks, which is a cluster of 5 blocks, will also be ready, which also has the lecture theatre complex, the modern library, as well as the another new building for the School of Computing, and so on. So our facilities, the infrastructure is also getting constantly upgraded, and all these will be ready by January next year. These 2 buildings are the Anusandhan Kendra 1 and 2, which is the research twin tower and not a mirror image of the other. And as I showed you, we have a modern production facility, which I also showed in the campus layout, where we have industry specified standards of all the facilities, which is basically a full-fledged production facility. And students of mechanical engineering, aerospace, as well as mechatronics, as well as the people who undergo the PG programs from the school, they do 2 of their lab courses in the modern production facility. And I know Professor Pugarendi will also be explaining to you the advantages, and the essentially towards the end he will tell you how the facility in fact provides the experiential learning to the students as well. And thanks to the Indian Air Force, we also have a decommissioned HPT-32 aircraft as well as a MiG-21 engine. And these 2 were donated by the Indian Air Force about 18 months to 2 years back, which is again, where the students are able get to see the electronics, the avionics part inside an aircraft, and also use it as a working laboratory as well. And this is our supercomputing or the high performance computing cluster and the network storage arrays that's there in the School of Computing. And this is our current central library, which is about more than 46,000 square feet space, which has more than 2 lakh collection of books. And once you are here, you would be able to borrow books. You will be able to access all the online content which we subscribe annually, close to tune of about 4 crores. And this is our edifice at Kumbakonam, which is the Srinivasa Ramanujam Center. It's just one gigantic building, multi-storied building, which has classrooms, laboratories, library, auditorium, as well as a museum on Srinivasa Ramanujam inside the building as well. And this caters to all the degree programs in engineering, management, arts, and sciences that's offered in the SRC campus. And we work very closely with our academic partners in terms of student exchange, in terms of joint projects, and so on. And this is a partial list of some of our national and international academic partners, starting from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Raman Research Institute, IISc Bangalore, JNC SAR Bangalore, IIT Madras, IIT Delhi, NCBS Bangalore, and these are some of our international partners with whom we've been working on student exchange programs as well, like the Harvard MIT Health Science Technology Division, Karlsruhe, Georgia Tech, NUS, Rutgers, and so on. And placement is a very, very major activity that happens on campus, and I'm glad to share that more than 90% of the 2020 batch eligible students have been already placed, and most of them have started getting their joining letters to join the company, join the companies as well, which is both from the software as well as from the course sector as well. And this again gives you some of our lead recruiters like Amazon, Siemens, Samsung, Caterpillar, TCS, Hyundai, Murugappa Group, Schneider, Biocon, Nokia, and so on. And this collage of institutions are where our students have gone ahead for either their masters or for the PhD program, both nationally and internationally. Again, you would see a Shastra alumni, anywhere that you go, anywhere in any country around the globe. And this is just a select list of institutions where our alumni have got admits and they've joined their programs. So with that, I will stop, and Professor Pugarendi and myself will start taking questions in the next half an hour, so that we are able to share what you would be experiencing in the next 4 years or the 5 years once you start your engineering program. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Before we take the specific questions, let me just dwell on the experiential learning Dr. Swaminathan has made a mention of. What you have seen in the presentation is only the manufacturing facility attached with the School of Mechanical Engineering. Most of the engineering college students actually pay industrial visit once or twice in the 4-year study. But the unique selling proposition of Shastra is that we have a world-class manufacturing facility in our campus itself, which is an extended arm of the School of Mechanical Engineering, where we have a battery of fully automated computer-controlled CNC machines, multi-axis machines. Apart from training our students, we also undertake orders with the global competitions, which means the real-life industrial exposure is provided to our students. And as has been already mentioned in the presentation, the industrial practice, the practical training is embedded in our curriculum itself. The BTech Mechanical Engineering, BTech Mechatronics, BTech Mechanical Engineering with digital manufacturing specialization, all of them undergo semester practical courses as a part of their curriculum itself. But we don't stop with only mechanical engineering students for giving this industrial exposure of real life problems and having the experience of solving the problems on their own. Shastra has devised, and it has been very successfully going on in the recent past. We have 2 kits which are distributed to our students, particularly School of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Mechatronics and Bioengineering students. All of them are benefited by SEEK. It is an acronym, Shastra's Electronic Exploration Kit. This kit is distributed to our students in the 3rd semester. So apart from doing the stipulated experiments in the laboratory practical courses, students are encouraged to explore on their own. They'll try out numerous circuits on their own, of course guided by the faculty available here, and students also make use of these kits for participating in some technical competitions. With the success of the SEEK kit, we also devised one more kit. It is personal embedded kit, and that is for embedded systems. So School of Electrical, School of Computing, and also SCBT, School of Chemical and Biotechnology, mostly bioinformatics students, also make use of this embedded training kit. And our civil engineering, we always have one construction or the other going on, as we have seen some of the graphical pictures of new buildings coming. And our SCBT has got the twin towers, so the research activities are going on. The industrial and research experience is available in the form of real life problems in all the 5 schools of engineering. And you will be experiencing all that hopefully from January 2021 onwards. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. In fact, I will also add the twin towers of research, the Anusandhan Kendra that I showed you, also houses 2 technology business incubators. One in the area of 3D printing and IoT, and the other in the area of diagnostics and therapeutics. So it is not that you come enter the campus for an engineering degree, finish the program, and the routine route of getting a placement. There are opportunities for you in terms of experiential learning by engaging with the faculty in research to have a career in research. And the other alternative is that these incubators also provide you space to test your entrepreneurship. If you have a new idea, if you have a new innovative idea in these areas, or even in other areas, we have different mechanisms such as the Student Innovation Fund to support these ideas, to see that there is some level of maturity in these ideas that takes place before you graduate. So in addition to these industries, the placements, the research internships that you can take during your stay, you can also test your hands on trying to be an entrepreneur by coming to these incubation centers and working on these areas as well. Okay. So with that said, we will take some questions which are very pertinent to this session. The first question is on is scholarship available for students? Yes, of course, different scholarships are available. This was also explained by our Vice Chancellor in the first session itself. Dean's List Scholarship offers 20% of fee refund to students who come in the top 2% of their class, and the remaining 3 to 10%, they get 10% of their fee being reimbursed. Other than that, there are also hostel scholarships also available for 400 students every year who maintain or who are eligible and qualify the conditions that is being stipulated. So there is a second question on what about foreign languages? Since you coordinate with the Goethe Institute, I will request you to take that question.
Yeah. Particularly with regard to the foreign language course, we facilitate the German language course at various levels, starting from the beginners course A1 to A2 and subsequently B1 as well as B2. Many of our students have qualified in all these levels, but initially we facilitate the A1 level. Interested students can enroll. Once the COVID disturbance is over, when you come to campus, we'll announce that, and the classes will be handled by the Goethe Institute faculty in the campus in the evening hours. And for day scholars, the first batch preference will be given, and for the hostlers, it will be the second batch in the evening. So it is not mandatory and it is not part of the curriculum, but we do facilitate the foreign language, particularly the German language program.
Thank you, sir. The next question is on how will big books be given this semester? Okay. So there are a set of prescribed textbooks that will be, followed during the semester, during the online semester also. We are in fact, working with the publishers to get an e-copy so that we are able to facilitate and share the e-copy with the students. But we have not been able to finalize it so far because of a lot of other constraints. So by next week, you will get information as to how the learning material. So it is not, once you enter a professional degree program, it's not just one book that you follow for one particular course. It is a set of books. You'll have to follow a lot of reference books as well to know more about the subject. So the learning material, I would call it the learning material instead of calling it the books, will be shared with you in the Google Classroom. So don't worry about not having a book during the semester. So the next question is on, will there be GATE coaching given on campus itself? Yeah, so if you followed Shastra's Twitter, you would have seen that once the GATE exam results are declared, we have many of our students across disciplines in the top 100 ranks. So definitely we provide them, we support them. In fact, there is I think I will ask Professor Purendi also to add, the success of the aerospace students in the recently conducted GATE students, where faculty members form, I wouldn't call it a GATE coaching, but giving them mentorship as to how do you, to clear GATE with higher AAR score, higher ranks. Sir.
Yeah. See, apart from the external agencies providing GATE coaching, which is again not mandatory, our own faculty colleagues, they mentor the students who are very serious about performing well in GATE, and particularly from biotechnology and aerospace engineering, regularly our students have been getting all India ranks, and we have got the top all India ranks 2, 5, 9, double digits 20, 30, 40, 50, etc. It's very prestigious for our students to get the all India rank every year, and not many students actually take up GATE. Those students who are interested in getting into public sector, or those who are interested into getting into higher studies in IITs and IISc, they take up GATE. Otherwise, majority of the students who prefer higher studies abroad, they take up GRE and TOEFL, for which also we facilitate the external agencies, physical coaching in campus or online coaching in campus. These are all outside the curricular activities. For those who are interested, we do facilitate all of this. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So next question is, can I change from BTech to integrated after first year? Okay. So, first year syllabus is common, right? Except the CSBS, which is an industry, driven curriculum content. All the other programs, the first year is common. So, which means an electrical engineering student can go to biotechnology at the end of first year, or bio engineering student can go to computer science in the first year, and all this will depend upon your CGPA, that is your academic performance, as well as the vacancy that is available in the particular course. Of course, the BTech to integrated also you will be able to switch over in the end of the first year. The next question is, after starting the class, how many days will the online semester go? So typically, as I explained to you, our semester is 75 days long, right? So we will have 75 working days. So in an online semester, we would be working 6 days a week, and we have ensured that a student does not have to sit before a computer system, or will not have to look into a device for maximum more than 4 or 5 hours a day. So we have ensured that, and this semester we believe will also go for about minimum of about 65 days in the online mode. Next question is on the SAP opportunities and whether integrated students are eligible for SAP. The opportunities that I listed here, the ACRS, SAP, and everything, is all the same between a main campus or an SRC campus. Similarly, it's the same for a regular student, that is the 4-year student or a 5-year integrated program. The opportunities will all be the same. Can you explain about the research credits again? Sir, Professor Pugaindi, can you take that question on research credits?
Yes, sir. See, some of our undergraduate students, because of the ambience, the research ambience that is available here, seeing the people carrying out PhD and publishing patents, some of our undergraduate students are very much enthusiastic, and they have been participating in such activities. After having observed for a few years, we actually thought of giving credit to the students who are working. Earlier, our credit was only a co-authorship in the publication, the research publications. Subsequently, we thought, okay, we have a devised mechanism to assess their performance and give a research credit by which, if they are spending additional time beyond the curricular timetable in the research laboratories, work with a guide on a particular problem, go through the online review as the work is progressing, not online, as the work is progressing, the review will be there, and at the end also they need to make a presentation, submit a report, and an assessment will be taken. If they are successful and this research credit is awarded to them, which will facilitate them, if they want, they can register for one lesser number of department elective in the 7th semester. That means the required number of credits to be earned to get the degree, they can get either by doing a research credit or by studying one more course. So earlier we made a mention about the academic flexibility. The research credit is also one more academic flexibility. In lieu of one of the departmental electives, research credit can be earned, or in lieu of one of the departmental electives that are offered in the campus, one can also take up any online MOOC, of course, that which is approved by Shastra. Some of the Coursera courses can be taken up, which will also be listed in our website. And there was also incidentally one connected question: what is the difference between open elective and department elective? See, while designing our curriculum, Apart from the professional core, we also facilitate our students to specialize in some streams. Therefore, from the third year onwards, from 5, 6, 7 semesters, you will have some of the professional elective subjects available. Apart from the core subjects are subjects which every student of the branch will undergo, will study. Electives are subjects which, based on their choice, students can choose and then study. And those electives are still allied and aligned with the branch of study that they are enrolled in. What we call as open elective is having a pool, a larger pool of electives, which is offered across all branches of engineering. And these open electives are really going to open our outlook, the humanities, the management, the music, the subjects like logistics and supply chain management, product design and management, appreciation of music, basics of Sanskrit, laws of cricket. So it's actually very, very wide collection of subjects, and wherein after the first year where the curriculum is common, once again students belonging to different branches come and sit together. They do the project also in such courses. So all this facilitate the experience of cross-functional teams learning together, performing something together. And that is about our open elective and department elective.
Thank you, sir. And there is also one more question on what is the difference between a lecture and a tutorial. So,
yeah. See, the difference between the school education and the college or university education is that it is primarily because of the knowledge potential difference between the teacher and the student. But when you come to higher learning, as Dr. Naren explained in yesterday's session, teacher is only an experienced learner. So specific content is being delivered to the students in the lecture periods, but in the tutorial periods, the students are asked to solve problems depending upon their level of competency or skill. Complex problems are also given to some set of students, and some students, if they find it difficult to solve problem, more than one faculty will be available, or the number of students attached to a faculty will be lesser, so that some hands-on hand-holding of problem solving will be taken up in the tutorial sessions, where it is not additional knowledge transaction, but actually hand-holding in solving problems. And in such classes, the students also take up help from fellow classmates. So the learning actually takes place in a matrix manner, from peer learning, from teacher, and sometimes interestingly, from the questions, very inquisitive students' questions, the teacher also gets to learn, and teachers do say, if you come across the answer the next class, you please share with the class, let me also join the learning process. And that is the difference between the regular lecture and the tutorial.
Thank you, sir. And the next question is the first year curriculum same for biotech? So as I told you earlier, the curriculum is same for all the engineering programs except CSBS. Okay. And the other question is, what if we didn't study bio in our higher secondary? Okay. So I think this question is coming because you would have seen biology for engineers as a course, or it could be because somebody has chosen biotechnology but has taken computer science in their 11th and 12th. So either way, so I will answer, both your apprehensions. The first one, biology for engineers, is basically, it has got very fundamental biology. I would say it has got, starts with high school biology and goes on to build what is the nature, or how we have been inspired by nature. For example, if you take neural networks, right? So it is basically an inspiration from the brain as to how the neurons and things have been connected. So similarly, there are a lot of inspirations that are available from the nature, which are being converted into technologies. We talk about quantum computing, DNA computing, a lot of other techniques, technologies that are used for various other purposes, which have been derived from a biological system that is available in nature. And these things are articulated, these things are discussed in the biology for engineers class. So don't be afraid that you've not studied biology in 11th or 12th, or you hate biology. But this is not a hardcore biology course. You will see the application of biology in engineering. And the second part is, if there are students who have been admitted into the bio stream, but who have not studied, biology in 10th, 11th or 12th, there is nothing for them to worry as well, because when we start our courses that are related to biotechnology or bioengineering or bioinformatics, we are fully aware of the fact that we have a heterogeneous class where students would not have studied biology in 11th and 12th. So the curriculum is designed in such a way that it starts with the fundamentals only. So as long as you are hardworking and you are willing to put your effort into learning the new subjects, I don't think you will have a problem of a non-biology student in high school, joining a biotech stream. Okay. The next question is, do I need a laptop?
Sir, actually, it is preferable to have a laptop, but it is not mandatory. In case if you don't have a laptop, and if you are not in a financially comfortable position to procure one, or sometimes laptops are not immediately available for you to purchase also. So it is not mandatory. But if you have a laptop, you get a larger screen to attend the classes. And coming to the learning of problem solving through C, compilers are available which are running on mobile phones also. So if you don't have a laptop, it is not a very big disadvantage, but it is preferable to have a laptop.
It is only, if I will add, it's only a convenience of looking at a bigger screen rather than looking through a screen or through your mobile phone. So other than that, we don't see that you are disadvantaged because you don't have a laptop. But a good bandwidth connectivity will be very helpful to you. And I think that's what Dr. Naren also explained to you in yesterday's session. The next question is, how do we know which faculty to choose, without meeting them in the first semester, because first semester is going to be online? It's a good question. In these tough circumstances, maybe you will get these options from your third semester onwards. Yeah. Or if you are willing to take the risk of choosing randomly just to familiarize you with the system, you could go for your own registration at the end of the second semester. So either way, a decision will be taken by you well in advance before you enter your second semester. Next question is, when will our first semester exams be? Sir?
Now, as was already explained in the presentation, we normally ensure 15 weeks of transaction, official academic transaction, and depending upon the situation, based on the government advisory, both central and state government advisory, when we are ready to open our campus, so we will have the end semester examination. If we wish, we will be able to operate that at the end of 15 weeks. If that is not possible, then we may have the examinations at the end of the second semester. So we'll get into the second semester without the end semester examination, only with the continuous online internal assessment. You would have learned the courses, but the end semester examinations will happen at the end of the year. But we wish that is the remotest possibility. But let us be in touch as the semester progresses. We will be in a better position to discuss that.
Okay. Yes. So in a nutshell, your end semester examination will happen once you're back, into the campus only. Okay. So when will the offline classes begin? And again, as Dr. Naren explained, a couple of times yesterday, it will begin only once we get, the approval, once the government decides to open campuses, and we will ensure that there is a free, that there is, the safety of students are of paramount importance. We will be able to have our classes in the physical mode. And the question on hostel registration, you will be notified. So it is always better, once you are into our WebStream portal, ERP system, you will be able to get all information regarding your hostel registration. And if you require transportation, if you are from Trichy or Tanjavur and would you like to use the bus facility, you would be able to register for the buses as well. But all these informations will be available at the portal, subsequently. About the refund policy, will there be an extension or a postponement? So the refund policy is being clearly explained and is available in the portal as such. So as of now, there is no change, and if there is anything else, it will be communicated to you through the portal. Professor Pugarendi, you are there? The next question is on ABCDE Innovation Center. What is the ABCDE Innovation Center? Okay. So the ABCDE Innovation Center stands for, the A in ABCDE stands for artificial intelligence, and B stands for BioNano, C stands for cyber systems, D stands for digital manufacturing, E stands for energy and environment. So these are some of the 5 critical emerging and exponential technologies that we have been working over the years, the last 10-15 years. And now we have set up this transdisciplinary center called the ABCDE Innovation Center, which will have adjunct international faculty, adjunct national faculty, industry partners working on core industrial problems, working on to develop core industrial solutions, so that we would be able to convert, to translate them into products and technologies that will be useful to the society. And that's the main focus of the ABCDE Innovation Center. Okay. What is the eligibility criteria for SAP? So usually the cutoff for the eligibility criteria for SAP, varies from institution to institution. So any student who has a CGPA of 7.5 and above would be automatically eligible. However, sometimes the host institutions are willing to look at students with a CGPA between 7 and 7.5 as well, without any arrears or without any arrear history. So even those students we would be able to submit, because this is a very, very rigorous selection process that goes through, where the first round of interview is done by a panel of faculty members from Shastra. Then we schedule the shortlisted students with the host faculty there, and then there is an online interview either through Skype or Zoom, and based on which they give the student preferences, they choose the students, and then the paperwork and necessary things are then taken up for the students to embark on the SAP facility. So Professor Pugarendi, you're back. I think he's having some network issues. Anyway, the next question is, will SRC students be allowed to access resources of the main campus? Definitely yes. As I've always been saying, that there is only the physical distance between the main campus and SRC campus. The faculty and students of both campuses are welcome to visit the other campus, use the resources of the other campuses as well. So in terms of all the digital resources and e-resources, you will be able to use all of them in the SRC campus itself. So you do not have to come to the main campus to access the library e-resource. That will be available for you in the SRC campus itself. However, for some advanced facility or advanced instrumentation that you would like to use, or any specific facility, and in fact, Professor Pugarendi also explained about the Seek kit, and that's in fact that's also available in the SRC campus for students in the SRC campus. And we always look at it as the student carrying the laboratory in his bag, so that wherever he goes, he is able to work on these important problems, develop systems or develop circuits and design circuits, and also test them as well. So you will not be constrained because you are in the SRC campus. So Professor Pugarendi, yeah. Next question.
Yes,
next question is for you. Why do I have to read other subjects when I have joined only computer engineering?
Can I answer that question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes.
He's having some network issues. So,
yeah. So I am Vaidya Subramaniam. The computer science and engineering is a title to a discipline. And in fact, if you trace the history of engineering education, there were only 3 engineering disciplines when we started. It was civil, mechanical, electrical engineering. Then it branched off into different disciplines, each of them having their own identities. But engineering as a subject of study, and in the last 3 years also, the AICTE has done a very detailed research and came out with a report as a model curriculum where they are encouraging students to also study certain interdisciplinary courses and other electives as well. In fact, if you go to North America and other nations, you have computer science under the School of Electrical Engineering. So likewise, engineering now is broadly becoming a subject of study that appreciates the application of concepts to solve industry problems, social problems, or various other problems that confront us. So it is not that computer science engineering student must read only computer science related courses. There are courses that are beyond the conventional boundaries of computer science engineering, but are very essential for a computer science engineer, maybe product design. You need to abstract a problem. You need to know what a problem is, how a problem statement is, what are all the difficulties. You need to know what are the human issues involved in that. So product design, systems thinking, likewise mathematics, you cannot say it's a non-computer science program, and likewise other department students would ask whether mathematics is required. That is kind of a course that runs across all engineering disciplines. Engineering mechanics, again, these are all certain courses which are hardcore, an engineering course that any engineer needs to know. And if you're going into the field, if you're going to the workplace, you should understand the basics of electrical engineering, basics of electronics engineering, mechanical, civil. You need to appreciate engineering as a wholesome body of knowledge, which is useful in parts for certain small problems that you encounter, and useful in large for certain problems that you're closely working with. So you have to have a flavor of both.
Thank you, sir. And there is also a question on the honors degree. So when you have to do these 5 courses for honors degree, it is through the self-learning mode. So examination alone will be conducted by Shastra. You will have to register for those set of courses that will be available, that will be displayed to you at the beginning of each semester, based on which you can choose the course that you would like to take as an honors course, which will be again a self-study, and then you will have to write the exam. And once you pass the exam, you will have to pass 5 such exams to be eligible to get a BTech in honors degree, in addition to having a minimum CGPA of 7.5.
So there was also a connected question on 7.5 CGPA.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is it tough to get or maintain 7.5 CGPA? To answer that question, actually it is not that really difficult. But what is required is regular commitment. See, in your +2 or JEE main, you might have prepared and cracked. It's like a 100-meter dash. But when you do a 4-year or a 5-year program, you need to show your performance consistently. And if you are regular, the design of the engineering curriculum is such that for any regular student, maintaining SGPA and CGPA of 7.5, roughly 75% is very easy. It's going to be a cakewalk if you make use of all the vehicles that are designed for you. And only if you have that 7.5 CGPA, again, honors is also possible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So next question is, how do the courses with specialization differ from regular courses? Like, do we have to do extra credit for the specialization? So typically any degree program, as we said earlier, will have three components, like your core courses, your department electives, as well as your open electives. So these specialization courses, we have designed a track electives based on these specialization. For example, a student who has joined the mechanical engineering digital manufacturing, the 6 to 8 department electives that he has to do during this 4-year study will be in fact designed or will be provided to him in the track of digital manufacturing, right? So that he would be able to get a specialization. Similarly, in cyber physical systems, the students from ECE will do 6 to 8 department electives in the track based electives, which will be very specified and selected in the area of CPS or cyber physical systems. And these are not extra credits, these are within your 180 credits. The next question is Anusandhan Kendra just for engineering students? Okay, I will answer that question. I would say that any facility or any faculty that's resource that is available at Shastra is open to the entire Shastra fraternity. So it is not like this lab is in civil engineering and it belongs only to civil engineering students or their faculty. Any resource that is available, in fact, in the campus should be made available to all the stakeholders, has been our philosophy right from day one. So there is nothing called that a mechanical lab is only for mechanical engineering or Anusandhan Kendra is only for engineering students. It is open to all students who want to make use of that facility. I'm just quickly running through different questions.
There is one question towards the end, like somebody has asked, is the value of the certificate after 4 years of engineering is the same for both the main and SRC campus? Yes, very much it is the same. It is the same degree certificate that is getting awarded, and both the main campus and the SRC campus offer the same programs, same accreditation, same validity, same placement. There should not be any iota of doubt on this, please.
And also there's one specific question from a high achiever student, I believe. Can I get admission into Harvard by taking intern to that university through the SAP program? So I will request again Professor Pugadendi to explain, a case study of Madhumita who went into the nuclear engineering program as well.
Yeah.
Both Arun and Madhumita. Both of them.
Arun Kumar as well as Madhumita. Yes. See, as I was earlier mentioning about encouraging our BTech students participating in research activities and publishing papers, and also using our ACRS, the accelerated credit registration system, then making use of the semester abroad program. All these things facilitated two of our alumni, Arun Kumar and Madhumita from the School of Mechanical Engineering, and also from several other schools. They all secured their admission, and these two, particularly Arun Kumar and Madhumita, they are secured direct PhD in the nuclear engineering program in MIT, and with full stipend, actually, with full financial assistance. And that's a great boon to the institution, and our alumni continue to bring laurels, and many such alumni do that. And students have been going to Harvard, Cambridge, and many institutions. And our semester abroad program is not facilitating students just to go to foreign country, do some courses by paying tuition fee there. The institution, the Shastra, has got functional MOU with several institutions where our students go, take part in the research activity. They don't have to pay any tuition fee there. And in fact, if they are selected by our process, we facilitate through the Desh Videsh scholarship, economic round trip a fare is reimbursed, and also a monthly stipend of $200 is also given to our students. It's all possible for all people who are high performers and having the motivation, sustained motivation.
No, the example of Madhumita and Arun Kumar was only to drive the point that they got admission into nuclear engineering in MIT.
Yes, sir.
Likewise, there are other students who have got their PhD, postdoc, or masters in leading institutions because of SAP, because they were able to publish papers, create a network, apply to universities, visit campuses. So there were students who got into UPenn, Cambridge, Oxford. So this is kind of an accelerated pathway, but not an assured pathway. It's an accelerated pathway that can work to your benefit if all things are equal.
Thank you, sir. And then there is a question on marking scheme. Is it relative marking or absolute score? So the answer to that is it's only we go only with the absolute score, and we do not do relative marking in the grading as well. So we've already crossed 12:30. So with that, we will wrap up this session. And if you have any more questions, feel free to email us. And we take this opportunity. I think Professor Pugarendi has some network issues. So on behalf of Professor Pugarendi as well, I would like to thank all the students who have participated in this orientation session. I hope we were able to throw some light into what awaits you at Shastra for the next 4 or 5 years. Right. With that said, we will wish you all the best and hope to see you in the campus soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and all the very best, my dear students.